Shareen, thanks so much for being with us and talking to us about such an important area. So we're just delighted to have you and delighted to be working with RBC. I just want to ask you a few questions and hear a little bit more about your story. So
Sure.
I'm curious about your connection to women's heart health and cardiovascular research.
Yeah, thank you. It's so great to be here. This is something I am really, really passionate about. And my connection is twofold, both personal. My mom is suffered from a severe form of cardiomyopathy.
Mhm.
And when I was young, I knew as early as I could remember that she had a heart condition.
Hmm.
And I spent a lot of my childhood visiting her in hospitals, and she had a number of open heart surgeries. And shortly before she passed away, she actually was one of the first recipients of the LVAD, the left
Oh,
ventricular assistive device. And
yeah.
so I often joke that I know more about that type of medicine than certainly my background warrants. I know just enough to be dangerous. I am definitely not in the medical field, but grew up honestly in hospitals around cardiology and various facets in them. As an adult, I actually experienced atrial fibrillation
Wow.
really young, and 3 years ago had a cardiac ablation.
So when you think about cardiovascular research, what does that mean to you, knowing what you've been through and your journey? What does that all mean to you?
It means my kid's future. When, I have to get tested to make sure that I don't have late, detection of the disease my mom had. And I take my small children, they're 9 and 6, to a cardiologist every 3 years to have them tested. And it is so terrifying to think that they could have the disease that my mom had and that I would pass it down to them. And, at different points, because we're still learning so much about her form of cardiomyopathy, we know that it is familial. What we don't know is how we can detect it. And so the research has been key to us, because we've found out, one, if you don't have it, we were first told then you can't pass it. Then we were told you can pass it. And so just having some level of comfort to be able to look at my kids and know what their future will look like, and hopefully be able to treat it even more effectively. I have an uncle who has a more mild version of my cardiomyopathy, and he's in his 70s. And I just think, okay, worst case scenario, my kids get it, but they could have a future. My mom never thought about her heart disease as a disability.
Hmm.
Actually, I asked her once what it felt like to have it, and she said, it's a blessing. And I wake up every day and I'm thankful I'm alive.
Hmm.
It just gave her that different perspective, even though so much was taken from her. She wasn't able to walk up and down stairs. She was really passionate about sports, but wasn't able to exercise and exert herself because of the severity of her condition. And so I had viewed it always as her limitations, and she saw it as this huge blessing that really changed the way she looked at life. And so when I think about what research can do, it can give my kids a future and their kids, because what if they do have it? What if they inherited that gene? And I don't want it to be a death sentence,
Right.
and research can really change their life.
Absolutely. Gosh, I mean, you said so many critical things. Things are changing and evolving so fast because of amazing research that we're fortunate to be a part of and help lead. And it really does create the health of this next generation and change what it looks like. It's fascinating to think not long ago, children that were born with heart defects weren't living very long. And now, they're living, they're living into adulthood and having kids and all of these amazing things that we've had. It's a whole new area of cardiology to learn how to take care of folks with conditions that used to be fatal. So it does change so very quickly. And I just love, again, the attitude that your mom had and clearly has passed on to you of not, not having that victim mentality, but how do I learn from this? How do I be thankful for every day that's in front of me, and advocate for the future? So it's amazing. I love it. That's great. So what has this journey with this connection to cardiovascular health and your mom's journey taught you? How has it impacted you throughout your life?
Oh, wow. It's shaped who I am. It was such a big part of our life growing up because, like I said, she spent so much time in the hospital and surgeries, and we always knew that this was out there. It was always present. It was the proverbial elephant in the room. And as much as we wanted to pretend it wasn't there, it was a part of our just very fiber of our family and shaped us in so many ways. But one of the things that I just had the honor of watching was how she did encounter all of the challenges and the grace with which she did so, and the positivity. I can remember the doctors, nurses just saying, no matter what we're doing, she has a smile on her face, and you walk into her room and she was one of those people that would really light it up. And just that has really shaped how I have faced my own medical challenges. And I was diagnosed with breast cancer 2 years ago. It doesn't run in my family. And I just thought, wow, what am I supposed to do with this? And I took a step back and I realized I have a playbook. I watched how this can be handled gracefully and how I can be a model for my children. But what it taught me also was these medical conditions aren't always visible. And especially with women, I find that we don't necessarily pay as close attention to our heart health as we do, let's say, breast health. So we hear so much about, doing your self-exam and mammograms, but how often do we hear about and do we stop and pay attention to our heart health? And one of the experiences I'd been experiencing atrial fibrillation, and it was one of the times I'd gone into the emergency room because it was going on for quite a while, and it was I was feeling really poorly, and so I went into the emergency room, and the doctor kept talking to me about it being anxiety. I have long had anxiety, and so it did two things. Where one, I felt ashamed because I had this history of anxiety, and now here I am in the emergency room taking up, this valuable time and resource of these professionals. And what if it is just anxiety? What if I am, just being a hypochondriac was always my concern. But in the back of my mind, I knew that there was something seriously wrong. And I learned from my mom that I have to trust myself. I have to trust my body, and I have to trust those signs. And I said, I do have anxiety. I know what anxiety feels like. This isn't it. And I had to keep pushing and keep pushing. And it was actually my sister who had come to the emergency room with me. She had driven me. I wasn't able to drive because of how poorly I was feeling. And she pushed me to stay because I wanted to leave because I was so embarrassed. And she said, no, you need to stay. If this were me, you would make me stay. And so it ended up being atrial fibrillation, and I'd had multiple episodes of it, and ended up wearing a Holter monitor, and had an ablation, and it was one of the best things I've done because I haven't had any episodes since. And it's really scary to go through that, but it was also really hard because I didn't want to be that person that was really overreacting. And I think a lot of women do that, where they're so fearful of what if somebody thinks I'm, not tough, or I'm not this? And, the last people we tend to worry about is ourselves. And I kept thinking, oh my gosh, I can't go to the emergency room. I've got to make dinner. I've got to do this.
Yeah.
It's really important that I did.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's such an important story. It's so common, unfortunately, that as women, we do second guess ourselves, or unfortunately, sometimes are seen by a physician or clinician who might minimize our symptoms. And then, I think it's one of the things that we hope to get accomplished here is that the best way to close these gaps that we have in women's heart outcomes is to be able to advocate for ourselves, which is really difficult at times. And I know I always tell all my patients, but particularly my female patients, you know yourself. And like you mentioned, we know what anxiety feels like. We know what those feelings are. But when you're feeling something totally different, that you have to trust your gut, and you have to push and sometimes say to that person, this is not my anxiety. And it's hard, it's not something that I think from a society perspective we've been taught to do, but will absolutely be critical for us as women to pass on to our friends and family, to be like, this is how I got the answers I needed for the health of my heart or my body or mind or whatever. So
yeah, and I always find it easier to advise other women and other people on what to do. And if I, in my own mind, put it in the context of, I want to be around to see my kids grow up.
Yeah.
And so that will often motivate me. But then also, and my sister did it so brilliantly in that situation when I was in the emergency room, she said, you wouldn't let me leave. And oftentimes that's what will get me to do something. Right. Okay, you're right. Like, how would I treat someone else? How would I care for someone else? I need to put that same care on me and think about myself in the same way that I care for others.
Yeah, such an important lesson. I love it. So the MHIF Hope, Health, and Humor event is designed to inspire and engage women in their own heart health. Why is RBC interested in supporting this effort?
RBC is passionate about health and wellness, but health and wellness of all of its clients in the community. And one of our core values is helping clients thrive and communities prosper. And it isn't just about like the clients we have in RBC, because it's about the communities in which we work. And if people are not taking care of themselves, if the communities in which we live and work are not healthy communities, there's no economy, there's no business, there's no future for our kids, or really we're facing right now what happens when we don't take care of our communities. We're looking at the impact of systemic racism. We're looking at the impact of COVID-19 on disadvantaged communities. And you think about what COVID-19 has done to women and the disparate impact it's had on women. And I think that's a perfect example of why RBC is passionate about health, but why companies have to take an interest in it. It can't just be individuals. The companies who have the money power and have the clout and have the political influence have to step up. And you think about COVID-19 and what's happening with women, where their health outcomes are less strong. They're also disproportionately impacted by joblessness, as well as food and home insecurity and shelter insecurity, as well as much as we'd love to say that things are different, I think we're making progress, but women are still the primary caregivers, both for children as well as for elders. And so now they're at home, they're managing work full-time, children full-time, and oftentimes elder care. And so we're taxed increasingly with, how do we help stand up programs and groups such as yours to support women and to support our communities, particularly those that have less opportunities historically.
So we're so grateful for your support of this event. It really, as you talked about, allows us to reach and inspire women even during a year when we can't bring women together at an in-person event. What do you want the women who participate in Hope, Health, and Humor this year to know about the RBC sponsorship of this event?
First and foremost, you're not alone. People are feeling understandably so isolated, but because you may be physically isolated doesn't mean that there aren't resources and people out there. And even though, hospitals and clinics shut down for a period of time throughout this pandemic, they're opening back up, and you need to get to your doctors, whether it's virtually or in person. Don't ignore symptoms. Don't ignore your yearly physicals and your yearly checks. And, I've joked throughout some of the medical challenges I've personally experienced that I could have a full-time job being a patient, going to the various specialists, but it is really, really important. And I really want to impress upon all of you that if you would want your mom or your sister or your best friend to do it yourself, because you're the best advocate. And by doing it yourself, you're leading by example, and we need more of that. And also reach out to others, reach out to your family, your friends, your colleagues. And even if it's a 5-minute conversation, just reach out. People are feeling alone. It'll make you feel better, but it's also going to help them. And then share. Yeah, I have my best friend, I'm constantly harassing her about, you need to go check this out. You need to go have that checked out. But hopefully we all have that person, and make sure that you're keeping up on your, stalking or harassing of that person, because it's really important, especially now, because I think we are so much more stressed and so much busier, working longer hours, and we just really need to make sure that we're taking care of ourselves and taking care of one another.